Next on the Fox Weekend Report, it hasn't been this bad in Europe since World War II. The UN says more than 500,000 people have left their homes in Kosovo in just the last 18 days. The U.S. is sending in the reinforcements. Heavy new firepower is on the way to help in the NATO mission. And the long, hard wait. The families of our 3 POWs struggle to keep hope alive. Hello everyone, I'm Todd Connor. Frightened, tired people driven from their homes continue to find their way out of Kosovo any way they can. Most recently, 1,500 refugees, the population of an entire Kosovar village, poured across the border into Albania. They told a familiar tale of Serb soldiers and police surrounding their homes and forcing them out at gunpoint. Peter Sharp has the rest of their story.
They'd gathered in the shadow of the mountains they were forced to cross during darkness. Another 1,500 people to add to Kosovo's despair. This was the largest group of refugees to cross to safety since the border was sealed 3 days ago. They had been given just 30 minutes to leave their homes and farms, 30 minutes to say goodbye to a life. Today among the refugees, unconfirmed reports that other villages were being used as human shields near Serb military installations. They'd crossed the border itself in driving rain during the night, 20 hours on the road.
They have destroyed us completely. My house is burnt. I have worked for it the whole of my life. 30 years now it's gone. My family is left in Pristina. I don't know nothing about them.
3,000 to 5,000 people were rounded up yesterday. Only 1,500 made it across. Some still too frightened to even show their face.
When we started to leave the village, we saw many houses that has begun to burn, and we left the village crying.
But among the misery, moments of sheer relief. Ali Mulasman, our translator, reunited with his family he'd always feared he would never see again. This afternoon at the border post looking into Kosovo, Serb soldiers were said to be mining the border. Last night's flood of frightened people reduced to a trickle. They told us southern Kosovo was now a wasteland. The only things moving were Serb troops. And on a little girl's face, that oh so familiar mix of fear and despair that has become Kosovo. The numbers of those reported missing inside Kosovo grows longer every day. The aid agencies, powerless to help them, can only wait here at the border, hoping others will be allowed across safely. There is little more they can do. Peter Sharp, Sky News, on the Albanian-Kosovo border.
On the Macedonian border, a smaller group of 90 refugees trickled in from Kosovo. Our Rick Leventhal joins us live now from Skopje. Rick, what's the latest?
Well, Todd, a short time ago, Fox News obtained video of what's left of one of those Albanian villages in Kosovo. It's the first graphic example that we've seen of what ethnic cleansing really means, and we want to show you that tape right now. The village is called cont'd. It's about 5 kilometers north of the Kosovo-Macedonian border and was visited by soldiers with the KLA, the Kosovo Liberation Army, who say the Serbs destroyed the village and massacred at least 25 people who lived there. Now, many of the homes were burned, leveled, or heavily damaged, and the rest of the town's 300 residents apparently fled for safety at the border. And the pictures that we were given that were shot behind Serb lines back up the stories that we've been hearing from the ethnic Albanian residents of other towns who have told of masked soldiers forcing them from their homes, beating or threatening them, and stealing their money or valuables, and then in some cases setting fire to their property. Now, it confirms the fears of many who've wondered if the people who fled Kosovo would have homes to return to if and when this conflict is all over. In this case, rebuilding cont'd certainly won't be easy. And the video, by the way, also shows a vest that was found lying on the ground with a bullet hole in the chest and it also showed a hat nearby, which is worn by Serb soldiers. Now, we got these pictures on the same day that the Kosovo-Macedonian border reopened, and another group of refugees came through telling us more of the nightmare they left behind.
Please be patient, and I will help you throughout the day.
These are the newest refugees to arrive in Macedonia, the first to cross the border at Blace since Wednesday. They tell stories of terror, of fleeing their homes and running for their lives, hiding from Serbian soldiers in churches or in the woods, watching their villages burn and their neighbors die. This refugee says a paralyzed elderly man and his wife were shot in their house because they weren't physically able to leave. He says he watched soldiers shoot 2 young boys in the back and saw others killed with knives. They walked for several days, following railroad tracks to avoid landmines, and believed guards let them cross into Macedonia only because journalists were at the border. Now they have a new home at the British-run camp on the Brazda airfield.
What we'll do now is get them together in a group, brief them, give them some idea of what's happening so they're not frightened or startled, then carry out the process of water, rations, accommodation, and settle them in.
There is room for new arrivals because a steady flow of people are now registering and leaving on planes for other countries. And some are walking out of the camps, accompanied by friends or relatives who've guaranteed the government they'll provide the refugees with a place to stay. But the situation in Kosovo remains grave. Hundreds of thousands of ethnic Albanians are still there, many of them hiding in the woods, fearing if they're caught by the Serbs, they'll be killed. Reporting live in Skopje, Macedonia, Rick Leventhal, Fox News.
All right, Rick, thanks. Nice job on getting that video from behind the lines. Thanks. And still ahead on the Fox Weekend Report, help is on the way. The U.S. boosts its firepower in the NATO mission, but there's talk that there might not be enough manpower to operate those weapons. And Yugoslavia calls the NATO mission thus far a fiasco. We'll head to NATO headquarters for an assessment by the Allies. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Whoa, very nice.
Oh, no, I was talking about the pizza.
Who delivered?
It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno, the frozen pizza that bakes up fresh, like pizzeria pizza.
I'll never know.
Pillsbury presents the easy way to make fresh baked garlic bread. Spread the garlic, bake them up, and in minutes you've got fresh baked garlic bread. Pillsbury garlic breadsticks.
Now we're talking fresh.
At Invesco, we know that before we invest your money with a company, we look deep into that company. We know with whom they do business, where they do business, and what kind of business they do. And we even learn a thing or two about who they really are. Invesco, a family of no-load funds. Over 65 years of experience, a global perspective. You should know what Invesco knows.
You've got this huge customer. They're so huge, sometimes they don't even know when they've received a shipment. Whose problem is this? Yours. That's why you ship UPS, because only UPS Total Track captures signatures electronically. Then you can use UPS online software to see your customer's actual signature. So when they say, "We never got it," you can say not only did you get it, but you don't dot your I's. UPS, moving at the speed of business.
We started out a pretty small business, but it sure wasn't small to us. We needed help, financial help. That's just what we got from the people at American Express Small Business Services. We got equipment financing for bigger stoves and faster computers, a line of credit to keep our cash flow flowing, plus the buying power to help our business grow. 1-800-SUCCESS was the best call we ever made. Like my father says, you can do anything you set your mind to, but you can't do it alone. He's right.
Saturday night, the situation in Kosovo moves into a critical phase. What's the political fallout here at home? Reactions from GOP presidential hopeful Pat Buchanan on the Beltway Boys. Powerful prime time. Saturday night, only on the Fox News channel. Saturday night, it's the largest air war in Europe since 1945. Now, what's the outlook if ground troops go in? Time to put a lid on it? Gotta know? Catch Drudge. Powerful prime time. Saturday night, only on the Fox News channel.
The U.S. is boosting NATO's firepower against the Serbs with newly announced reinforcements. Our Kelly Wallace is at the Pentagon with more on what's being added to that military mix. Kelly?
Well, that's right, Todd. The Pentagon is beefing up Operation Allied Force, sending more warplanes to the region. And military officials say the Serb troops are starting to feel the heat of an intensified air campaign that is now an around-the-clock operation.
The Pentagon is sending 82 additional warplanes to the military campaign against Yugoslavia, including 24 F-16 fighter jets, which attack enemy air defense systems, and 4 A-10s, which can go after troops and tanks on the ground.
The addition of these aircraft will, of course, allow us to do two things. Expand the number of strikes over any 24-hour-a-day period, and two, give us more deep strike capacity as necessary.
But the Pentagon admits that the 24 Apache attack helicopters, which can fly low and in all kinds of weather, might not see any action for some time.
I would think within 30 days they'll be fully up and running.
Part of the delay in getting the Apaches into the operation has been the bottleneck in Albania, where NATO must juggle the massive number of military and humanitarian flights. But even without the Apaches, Pentagon officials say they've made progress in degrading the troops on the ground. Newly released video shows bombs hitting targets earlier this week, including a bridge in Novi Sad and an army barracks in Serbia. The Pentagon says approximately 50% of the Serbs' fuel reserves have been destroyed and that the Serb troops are starting to feel it.
We are slowly choking off the support lines that go to the troops. And now we want to concentrate more and more on the forces in the field.
Meantime, President Clinton's national security team huddled together at the White House. And while some members of Congress are urging the administration to prepare for a possible ground war, the message from the Pentagon and the NATO allies remains the same.
There's no intention right now at all to employ ground troops. The air campaign is going as planned.
There is one plan, and that's the air campaign.
That was the Canadian Defense Minister who met with Defense Secretary Cohen earlier today. Now, with this additional air power, the U.S. will have about 500 planes in the Operation Allied Force arsenal, and the Pentagon spokesman says that other countries are expected to announce that they are sending additional aircraft as well. Todd?
So, Kelly, will the U.S. have to activate any reservists to take care of these extra jets that they're sending over?
Well, essentially, they don't believe they'll have to have a presidential call-up of reservists to handle these additional planes. However, reservists may be called upon to support other parts of the operation if enough volunteers don't come forward.
All right, Kelly Wallace at the Pentagon, thanks very much. Well, NATO isn't letting up on the Serbs. Orthodox Easter dawned today to the overnight shrill of air raid sirens. Fox correspondent Catherine Herridge has an update on the Allied effort from NATO headquarters in Brussels.
A NATO strike on a Serb radio transmitter. Even though bad weather is limiting the number of combat flights in action, NATO officials gave a positive assessment of the operation.
In the last 2 weeks, we have inflicted a hell of a lot of damage, quite frankly, on the Yugoslav armed forces.
NATO released this aerial shot of Prelia in western Kosovo to counter Serb claims the alliance is responsible for the destruction.
This image shows damaged buildings which have not been subject of any NATO action.
With Secretary of State Albright arriving at NATO Monday for a foreign ministers meeting, the focus here is shifting to diplomacy. NATO is keeping the lines of communication open to the Russians.
We want to have Russia on the inside working with us rather than on the outside working against us.
Russia, a longtime ally of the Serbs, is not part of the military operation, though NATO officials believe its involvement in the political and diplomatic dimensions make a quick resolution more likely.
Officials here say Kosovo is a defining moment for the future of the alliance and its commitment to security in Europe. Officials here say NATO countries are united behind the air campaign. The possible deployment of ground troops may become a very different story. Reporting live from NATO headquarters in Brussels, Catherine Harris, Fox News. Back
Catherine, do you know anything about reports of Serbs attacking the press in Montenegro?
Yes, we do. That was one of the very interesting developments at the briefing today, Todd. They told us that the Second Army was making moves against independent radio. Independent radio in Montenegro broadcast Voice of America, and radio-free Europe. This is, of course, a sign of perhaps instability in the region. And I have to say, having been to Belgrade in the past during the demonstrations in '96, the pro-democracy demonstrations, when Milosevic wanted to crack down and silence his critics, he silenced B92 independent radio. And that's what happened just before this conflict as well.
All right, Catherine Herridge at NATO headquarters, thanks very much for that update. And still ahead on the Fox Weekend Report, for 3 American families, the war in far-off Kosovo is much too close to home. We'll tell you about the anxious watching and waiting for news of U.S. POWs held by the Serbs. And a close-up look at Russia's take on the Kosovo crisis. Stay tuned for an interview with President Yeltsin's spokesman. Plus, don't forget to join us later tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Time for a live 2-hour special on the conflict in Kosovo. That'll be hosted by Shepard Smith. And Shepard will also have a full wrap of the day's events every weeknight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Fox News Channel. Stay with us. This is the Fox Weekend Report. We'll be right back.
Introducing Hungry Jack Honey Butter Biscuits. With just a taste of honey butter in each flaky, mouth-watering layer. They're sweet, but not too sweet. New Hungry Jack Honey Butter Biscuits.
Whisk presents the 10 million thousand things we have to do every day. Then we still have to do the laundry really well. Fortunately, Whisk has a targeted cleaning system. To do it once, do it right.
I'm going to the movies. Hey.
High-definition home theater.
This is a world only a few know well. A world of risk and uncertainty, where the roads can take you to success or prosperity, or sometimes to no place at all. This is the financial world. For decades, banks and investment firms of mountainous size have ruled the land. Yet high above the horizon, another mountain has risen. A mountain called First Union. With 16 million customers, the nation's 8th largest brokerage and 6th largest bank. For a new perspective of the financial world, come to the mountain called First Union. Or if you prefer, the mountain will come to you.
I thought you quit smoking.
I did.
Really? What's up with that?
It's a Nicotrol inhaler. Gives me the nicotine I need to fight my cravings and help me quit.
Really?
But you can only use it for up to 6 months, and you have to use it as part of a stop smoking program. You have to stop smoking first, then you can't use it with anything else containing nicotine.
It's important to tell your doctor if you have heart or lung disease or are pregnant or nursing. The most common side effects are mild throat or mouth irritation, cough, and upset stomach.
How do I look?
Surprisingly intelligent.
Ask your doctor for product information.
Call now to learn more about the new Nicotrol inhaler and get a free copy of Pathways to Change, Nicotrol's personalized plan full of tips to help you quit smoking. The Nicotrol inhaler and Pathways to Change should be used as part of a total stop smoking program. Call now and you'll also receive a coupon worth $5 off your prescription, plus a sample inhaler mouthpiece. So call now to get started.
Russia's absence from the alliance against the Serbs hasn't meant the Kremlin's been silent on the subject. Russian President Boris Yeltsin warns if Russia is drawn into the conflict, it could escalate into a world war. And there was a hint that Russian nuclear missiles had been re-aimed at NATO countries involved in the conflict. Earlier today, Fox's John Scott talked to President Yeltsin's chief spokesman, Dmitry Yakushkin, in Fox's Moscow bureau. Why the scare yesterday over the retargeting of those NATO missiles? That was not a statement that was attributed to Mr. Yeltsin, but it seemed to have some authority.
You know, I wouldn't like to touch at this moment on all the commentaries, which we had enough and plenty yesterday. I would only like to stress that there was no command from the president to change anything in the preparation of a nuclear Russian or strategic forces. That's absolutely evident, absolutely. But I would like to point out that, of course, the issue of the Balkan crisis is a big political issue in internal politics here in Russia. It is widely discussed in the newspapers, it is widely discussed by the politician, and it touches very much public opinion. I would like to point out that there is a rise of anti-American and anti-Western feelings.
There seems to be growing sentiment among some political leaders in this country that ground troops may need to go into Kosovo to accomplish NATO's goal. If ground troops go in, what is Russia's reaction going to be?
I would like to say that we have a plan which is revised almost every day and sometimes several times a day. This plan is linked to how the events are happening. I wouldn't like to at this very moment to predict our steps if something which you mentioned will occur. I would only like to say that yesterday, Mr. Yeltsin, on 2 occasions, he said that an invasion would be a disaster, and he pointed out to countries which had similar events, and always it was a disaster. He spoke about Vietnam, he spoke about Czechoslovakia, about Afghanistan for the former Soviet Union. And during his meeting with the Chief of Parliament yesterday, who just returned from Belgrade, they said that the Serbs, it's impossible to defeat the Serbs if troops will come in. It's absolutely impossible. They will fight till the last soldier on defending their homeland. It will be a complete disaster.
And Yukushkin also said bombing Yugoslavia leads only to a dead end, not a solution to the hatred or the atrocities. Well, back here in the United States, the families of the 3 American soldiers held prisoner by Yugoslavia have nothing to do but wait. Supporters of Staff Sergeant Andrew Ramirez held a vigil today, and our William Lajeunesse joins us now from in front of the Ramirez home in Los Angeles. Hello, William.
Todd, Sergeant Ramirez may be alone tonight in a prison cell half a world away, but by no means is he forgotten.
Like Bob said, he went on a mission, a peace mission. This was not supposed to happen. I know. Thank you.
Here in East L.A., where Ramirez grew up and went to high school, a rally Saturday, even children know one of their own is missing. Relatives hoped today would be a homecoming celebration. Instead, it symbolizes unity, an emotional safety net for a family that publicly tries to stay positive and upbeat. Privately, we are told that they are taking Andrew's POW status very hard. About 500 people showed up today. Veterans honored Ramirez today as a hero, a peacekeeper who lost his freedom protecting a people who cannot protect themselves. Relatives told us that Ramirez is a quiet but confident young man, 26 years old, a good son, a good student, whose will and spirit will not be broken in Yugoslavia. His family finds its strength in him.
I think that most of the family members believe that he's just hanging in there. I know that he knows that all of us are thinking about him, praying for him. This might surprise him.
Thinking hard, praying, that's all we can do.
He's coming home, God willing, and that's what we're all saying. We're not letting any negative force get in.
Military service is a tradition in the Ramirez family. All his relatives have served in Vietnam and Korea and World War II. The people say here that they will not rest until he is released. Todd?
All right, a tough time for those families. William, thanks very much. Well, Congress comes back from its spring break on Monday, but you'll need a scorecard to tell the Hawks from the Doves in Washington What was true during the Gulf War is no longer the case during this crisis in Kosovo. Fox's Eric Dodd explains.
While the bombs drop in Kosovo, there are partisan explosions in Washington. This time around, the Doves and the Hawks seem to be switching sides. Back in 1991, most Democrats opposed the Gulf War resolution.
Pentagon ordered 16,099 body bags. That must be based on something.
But 8 years later, Kosovo is bending Washington's battle lines.
This is about the stability in Europe.
Democrat Joseph Biden is a member of an unusual group. Of the 24 Democratic senators still in office who voted against the Gulf War, 21 voted for the Kosovo bombing. California's Barbara Boxer is among the liberal Democrats who strongly favor military action in Kosovo.
It's a moral issue as far as I'm concerned. And I don't look at it as hawks and doves. I look at it as to, how you view man's inhumanity to man.
Boxer is in the odd position of supporting the bombing while trying not to alienate her anti-war voters.
I view war as a failure of foreign policy. In this case, I blame Milosevic for this war.
Suddenly, these people who had a slogan of "Come Home America," that was the McGovern campaign, now it seems to apply to some conservatives and very few liberals.
Conservative commentator Bruce Hershenson lost the Senate race to Boxer in 1992. He's urging Americans to support the military no matter what they think of the president.
This isn't the time for anger at him, it's the time for anger at Milosevic, and we ought to direct our anger towards Milosevic.
It may be tough to tell the Hawks from the Doves in the Kosovo conflict, but both sides agree on one thing. Support for American involvement will fade on both sides of the aisle if the fighting stretches on for long. In Los Angeles, Eric Dodd, Fox News. All right, and that does it for tonight. I'm Todd Connor. Don't forget, we will have a 2-hour special on the crisis in Kosovo tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, hosted by Shepard Smith. And there will also be a 2-hour live edition of Hannity and Colmes beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, I'll be back tomorrow night for another edition of the Fox Weekend Report. Have a great night, and we will see you again tomorrow night.